Roguelikes are the kind of games that don't care how good you were 5 minutes ago. You mess up, you lose your progress, and the only thing that carries you into the next run is what you learn. When a roguelike works, that loop of dying, retrying, and slowly getting better becomes strangely addictive. In today's video, we're going to take a look at 20 of the best roguelike games ever made. Some lean on action, some on tactics or cards, but they all live in the same one more run feeling. And if you stick around until the end, I've got 2 hidden gems that don't get shouted about as much as they should, but absolutely deserve a spot on your radar. Let's get into it. Risk of Rain 2 drops you onto a hostile planet with basic gear and one clear aim. Stay alive as long as you can. Every minute the difficulty climbs, so you're always weighing up whether to search for more loot or rush to the next teleporter and move on. Runs usually start slow and careful, then turn into huge firefights where the screen fills with enemies and item effects. Even in that chaos, you're never just watching numbers. Movement, positioning, and knowing when to push or back off are what keep you improving over time. Dead Cells is all about fast movement, sharp combat, and making quick choices as you cut through branching paths. The Castlevania content layers classic weapons, monsters, and music into that structure without breaking the pace or feel of the original game. You still dash, roll, and slice your way through tight levels, but now with familiar gothic locations and gear in the mix. Each run feels like a short, focused action film, and even when you die early, you usually come away knowing exactly what went wrong. Hades turns escaping the underworld into a loop of failed attempts that feels meaningful. Every run gives you new bits of story, new dialogue, and new ways to build your character, so starting over never feels like a full reset. Combat is quick and easy to read, with weapons that feel different but balanced. Boons stack into builds that push you to change how you move and attack, and over time you learn to read rooms, pick safer options, and squeeze more out of each escape attempt.
For safekeeping.
Astral Ascent is a side-on action roguelike where movement and timing really matter. Each character has a set of abilities that reward clean inputs and smart dodging, so you're encouraged to stay active rather than sit back and poke from safety. Builds grow run by run as you pick new spells and upgrades, and the game gives you enough time to feel those choices without dragging things out. When a run ends, you usually have a clear sense of which decisions worked and which ones put you in trouble. Slay the Spire turns crawling a tower into a series of small, important card choices. Every time you add or remove a card, you're shaping how future fights will play out, and a deck that looks strong early can fall apart if you're not careful. It's not about drawing the perfect hand every time, it's about planning for bad draws and rough fights. Over time you learn which cards look tempting but clutter your deck, and which simple options quietly carry the whole runs on their back. Hades 2 sticks with the same idea of repeated underworld runs, but shifts the focus more towards magic, spacing, and planning your tools. You still dive into short, intense encounters, but timing spells and managing resources is a bigger part of each fight. New characters and systems build on what players know from the first game without just repeating it. Each attempt moves story and progress forward bit by bit, so even a bad run usually unlocks something new, making it easier to jump straight back in. Balatro takes the idea of poker-style hands and bends the scoring rules until they feel brand new. You're not just trying to play strong hands, you're stacking modifiers that twist what strong even means for that particular run. Each attempt becomes a little puzzle of how far you can push those rules before they break. Small upgrades can completely change how you value certain cards, and part of the fun is learning to spot when a strange-looking build is actually the smartest path forward. The Binding of Isaac Rebirth is a top-down shooter where every item can completely change how your tiers behave. Some runs turn you into a tank that fills the room with projectiles, while others leave you underpowered and scrambling to survive. Because items stack in unusual ways, you're always curious about what the next pickup might do. A run can shift from hopeless to unstoppable within a single find, and that constant uncertainty is what makes starting another attempt feel so tempting. Darkest Dungeon is all about stress, attrition, and knowing when to cut your losses. Your heroes don't just lose health, they pick up fears, quirks, and lasting scars that follow them between missions and slowly wear them down. Going deeper into a run always carries a real risk, and retreating often feels like the smartest move. You're not just trying to win every battle, you're trying to keep the wider roster alive, which gives every decision some weight. Children of Morta follows a single family of heroes as they fight through dungeons, with each member having a different fighting style. Between runs you return home, see small story scenes, and upgrade the whole family rather than just one character. That structure makes progress feel more personal. Even if a run goes badly, you've usually inched the family forward in some way, and the emotional beats around the house give weight to the otherwise familiar loop of jumping back into combat. For the King mixes turn-based combat with a board game style overworld, where movement and outcomes are influenced by roles. You're planning routes, sharing resources, and deciding when to play it safe or tilt the odds in your favour. It really shines in co-op, where each player's choices can pull the party out of trouble or into disaster. Campaigns feel like self-contained adventures, and when a group wipes, you usually remember the exact risky move that tipped things over. Returnal is a fast, third-person shooter where enemies hit hard and movement is everything. Dash timing, reading patterns, and staying calm under heavy fire matter more than soaking damage, so you're always in motion. Each biome has its own rhythm, and learning those rhythms make later runs feel smoother, even if you don't pick up the ideal gear. Death sends you back to the start, but experience with enemy behaviour and level layouts sticks with you and quietly raises your chances next time. Enter the Gungeon is a twin-stick shooter stuffed with guns, puns, and bullet hell patterns. You dive through rooms dodging waves of projectiles while juggling reloads, active items, and knowing when to roll through danger. Runs tend to start with simple weapons, then grow stranger as you find new gear with unusual behaviours. Mastery comes from recognising enemies and layouts, so over time you feel less surprised and more prepared even when the screen looks completely packed. Rogue Legacy sends generations of heroes into the same shifting castle, each new heir inheriting both upgrades and odd traits. Some heirs are straightforward, others come with quirks that change how you see the world or control the character. Gold you earn feeds into permanent boosts, so even a short run usually helps the next one feel more manageable. That steady drip of progress keeps you coming back and trying just one more time. Dicey Dungeons is a turn-based game where you roll dice, then slot them into abilities that all have different requirements. You're constantly deciding whether to use a die in a safe way now or hold out for a riskier, stronger combo. Each character follows its own rules, forcing you to rethink how you treat your dice. That variety stops things from feeling stale, and even when the odds are against you, there's usually a small decision you can point to that made life harder than it had to be. Into the Breach shows you exactly what each enemy will do on their turn, so there are no surprises, just hard choices. You're not trying to kill everything, you're trying to push and pull units so they damage each other or miss key targets. Because missions are short, every move matters. Saving a single building can be more important than destroying a monster, and success often comes from thinking a turn ahead rather than trying to wipe the board in one big play. FTL puts you in charge of a small ship jumping through hostile space, dealing with crises as they come up. You're routing power, moving crew, and picking fights carefully, knowing that every bit of damage might cost you later. Choices about upgrades and routes always carry weight. Spend scrap on repairs and you're safer now, but weaker later. Spend it on weapons and you might not live long enough to use them. That trade-off is what makes each run tense from start to finish. Noita is a side-scroller where every pixel follows physics and reacts to spells, fire and liquids. You can tunnel through certain terrain, collapse structures, or accidentally set half the map on fire with a stray shot. Ones are built from spells you find, and small changes can make them either brilliant or suicidal. A lot of learning comes from what happens if I try this moments, and the game rarely stops you from making a terrible, interesting mistake. Spelunky drops you into randomised caves with strict, predictable rules. Traps, enemies and items always behave the same, so when something goes wrong, it's because you missed a detail rather than because the game changed the rules. That consistency makes improvement feel honest. As you learn, you stop falling for obvious dangers and start planning around them, turning runs that once felt impossible into calm, controlled trips through areas that used to terrify you. Crypt of the NecroDancer ties every move and attack into the beat of the music. You're watching enemy patterns and the rhythm bar at the same time, trying to stay on tempo while dodging threats. Once the rhythm clicks, the movement feels natural and almost automatic, which lets you focus on the options rather than the controls. Different characters and soundtracks change the feel, but the core idea of fighting to the music stays firmly in place. Neon Abyss is a side-on shooter where you chain item effects and pets until runs get wild. Rooms are short and punchy, and the pace rarely slows down once you get going. Because upgrades stack in unusual ways, even simple items can combine into strange, powerful builds. It's easy to jump in for a quick run, but it's just as easy to lose track of time chasing the setup that finally comes together. Moonlighter splits your time between exploring dungeons at night and running a shop by day. Items you bring back are priced, sold, and reinvested into gear and store upgrades, so combat and business feed into each other. That loot makes every drop feel important, whether it's for profit or crafting. You're always thinking about how deep to go into a dungeon and when to turn back, because dying means losing loot that might have funded your next big step forward. Roguelikes aren't for everyone, but if you watched the video this far, there's a good chance at least one of these caught your eye. Whether you like careful planning, twitchy action, or that just one more run feeling, there's something here you can sink time into. If there's a roguelike you think should have been on the list, drop it in the comments down below so I can check it out. I do answer all comments. And if this video was useful or gave you a few new games to try, feel free to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.